Today's guest is someone who's shaped the business side of rehab in Canada more than anyone else. Rick Lau is an entrepreneur, strategist, and clinic builder who has spent the last 2 decades growing and selling multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses across physiotherapy, chiropractic, massage therapy, e-commerce, and software. He co-founded PT Health, scaling it from a handful of clinics into a coast-to-coast network of over 100 locations, exited that business, then went on to build and sell Clinic Supplies Canada, launch Call Hero, co-found Pain Hero, and create Clinic Accelerator, a community coaching program and event series that has helped hundreds of clinic owners build systems, scale, and lead more effectively. But his story isn't just about big wins. Today, we're digging into the real journey, the messy middle, the mistakes, the systems he wishes he had earlier, and what it actually takes to build a business that doesn't burn you out. Whether you're a clinic owner trying to grow, or a young clinician who wants to build something inside or outside someone else's company, this episode is packed with gold on leadership, innovation, and what it means to stay relevant in a changing industry.
Which is also owned by the largest, and this pharmacy chain is actually owned by the largest publicly traded grocery chain. And they're worth $50 billion. So this is the state of healthcare, right? My marketing leads is up 300% a year versus being up like 20, 30%.
Wow.
But I had to get over that like mindset that I'm the best person for that role.
So if a clinician wants to create something beyond trading time for money, where would you tell them to start?
Just be an influencer on TikTok and get brand deal, give me $400,000 a year. It doesn't matter what business you create, but it needs to be able to solve a real problem that people want to pay money for.
Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tom. Amazing. I'm excited.
Can you take us back to your early days in the rehab industry? What did clinic number 1 look like, and what made you think bigger from that?
Okay. Actually, do you know my origin story, Tom? Maybe I could share that.
Let's go over that. Yes, let's do that. I know it, but the audience might not know it.
Yeah, but it's a good origin story because then it will lead into the first clinic, right? And and how it got to the first, from the 100 to 50 to 127. So as you know, or maybe you don't know, I went to school as an engineer, right? So that was Edmonton. And my best friend at that time was actually Paul, who happens to be a physiotherapist.
Yes.
And when we finished school, what we wanted to do was we wanted to be a clinic owner. Or actually, we wanted to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. And back then, it wasn't cool to be an entrepreneur. It was... and so we bought our first practice. And back then, it was so cheap buying practice because no one wanted to be an entrepreneur and no one was buying practices. And it was expensive to raise money, and private equity hasn't come in the game yet. So back then, we were buying businesses, Tom, for about 2 times cash flow, right? So 2 times profit.
Yep.
And the vendor would lend half of it, okay? So you use the profits to pay them out. And so in essence, you're kind of breaking even by literally within the first 6 to 9 months.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the genesis, and that first clinic, grew to 5, grew to 20. And then at that point, Paul and I and a couple of the other business partners is like, hey, what do we want to do when we grow up? And at that point, we were hubris and we were young and we raised a bit of money. And then we ended up consolidating about 100 more clinics. So we got to 127 locations with 1,400 employees. And it just became this beast.
Yeah.
And really big company. And those chain of clinics now is actually owned by the largest publicly traded pharmacy chain, right?
Yep.
I'm not gonna name names.
That's okay.
Which is also owned by the largest, and this pharmacy chain is actually owned by the largest publicly traded grocery chain. And they're worth $50 billion. So this is the state of healthcare, right? Yeah. What do you think? Is that a good opening?
That's a good opening. That is a good opening. We'll start there. When was the shift from owning a clinic to building a business? Was that always the plan? Or did you know right off the hop that you're like, let's just keep going with this? Like what you're doing is working. And how did you know it was working?
Yeah. I think the best the best metric is whether you're making money or not, right?
Right.
And so I would say that back in early 2000, like the first couple of clinics was easy, right? It was very basic in terms of like how you run the businesses, and it's a lot less competitive as now, right? Now, like there's no room to like mess up. Like everything
No.
has to be dialed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But back then it was way easier, right? And there was less competition because partly no one wanted to be a business owner. And so after and I think my first clinic, your first clinic is the hardest and your first million is the hardest.
Yeah.
And then after that, like once you're winning and you found out like what works for you in your systems, that was actually when I was like, okay, I could do this. I am a business owner. I am a clinic owner, and that was the journey, right? But I think fundamentally is your cash flow and your profits what dictates whether once you start making more money from the business versus you working in it, that is your barometer of like, oh, okay, I actually own a business. I'm not just a technician in there working the business.
Yeah. I mean, what would you say the primary levers were that you helped grow PT Health so quickly? Was it just the cash flow, the model that you came in with, or were there other early systems or anything that you figured out along the way that you still actually continue to do today?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is like a weekly scoreboard. That was the first thing I did in my first clinic.
Okay.
And it's funny, when I look at the weekly scoreboard right now we have within Clinic Accelerator, it actually is not that different.
Yeah.
Some of the columns may be different,
Right.
but each week it's tracking like everything from the patient calling the clinic to booking to them like prescribing the entire plan of care to them like all these different like marketing and like operation metrics. But if you don't actually have your weekly scoreboard, you actually don't know if you're winning or losing each week, and what's trending.
Yeah.
Right? Because like most people, like, and I was like this, like I didn't know how my business did until the end of the month. I look at my bank balance,
Right. Yeah.
or I look at the end of the year because I have to file taxes, and I'm like, oh, the comes like you made money, right? But the weekly scoreboard or some type of system that know, like, hey, like like it's working, it's what's not, and I think that was like really critical.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that you guys have taught us how to maintain track. It's one thing clients coming in and everyone's schedules are busy, but if they're falling off after 2 or 3 appointments, it's expensive to get new clients in the door. Like trying to maintain it and make sure they complete that care and that the model is working is critical for any business because, it's really expensive to try and find new clients all the time. And if they're having a bad experience and they're leaving because of a bad experience, that reputation is not good for business. When did you realize that you needed systems across, the clinics so that things didn't fall apart? How far along the journey did you realize we need to systematize things?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on different phase in the business. Like, for the first 5 clinics I own, like I think that, a couple of these spreadsheets that we talked about, that system worked for that. But as you scale to 20 locations, 50 locations, 100 locations, and you start depending on leadership and middle management staff, I think those systems are very different, and what's worked in your first 5 clinics or even your first 3 clinics is very different for your first 20, 50, or 100. And so that game just incrementally gets harder and harder as systems get more and more complex because you don't want the systems to be so rigid that it doesn't allow for the business to be, for the leaders of the business to be entrepreneurial, right? There's always this struggle between making it too systematic and doesn't drive entrepreneurialism within the clinic. And you don't have to be like, I'm talking about the staff being entrepreneurial, like just that mindset of like, if something's wrong, I'm willing to like do something about it and not wait for Tom or Rick to come and solve the problem for me or fill out that form to get that problem solved and hopefully it might be fixed.
How do you encourage that for your staff to take that initiative to solve that problem rather than wait for you to come in to see the problem, or maybe you don't recognize it for months down the road? What is it that you work with your clients or your staff to initiate that problem solving ability? Because they're smart people.
It is a smart people, and I think like when I look at the evolution of myself, and I think a lot of owners kind of get caught in this same journey is that when you start becoming a business owner, right? Or you buy your first business, your management style typically is, okay, I'm the boss, which means everyone listen to me, right? And then so in essence, your management style ends up being a micromanager, and you could be surrounded with all this talent, but you're micromanaging them. And then so you're not allowing them to fail. You're not allowing them to take risks. And that was my journey, right? And I remember how much amazing staff I lost because I was a very controlling, micromanaging type of like leader, right? And then after you lose a few people, like really good talent, and the best talent you lose typically are maybe a clinician opens up a clinic across the street from you. And and it's like the ultimate betrayal. It's like getting like a knife stab in your heart. Then it changes your leadership style. And you're like, you go from being, and this is my journey. I went from being a micromanager to being a people pleaser. And being a people pleaser just means like you're like cheerleading everybody, but you're also you're not challenging them. You're not coaching them, right? And typically if you don't challenge people, you don't coach people to win, and you just like cheerlead, like typically like you'll lose them anyways because they're not winning.
How do you find the balance between that? Because it's a finicky, between coaching and micromanaging. How do you find that balance? And then, like you said, being their cheerleader, encouraging them to work well, but not encouraging bad behavior, and not bad behavior as in like being unprofessional, but sloppy techniques, or, not staying on top of your your drop-offs, or calling your clients, or adding that extra touch. What was the balance? How did you find that balance between all of those things?
It's hard, Tom. I think you almost have to fail,
right,
to actually learn how to do it, right? Like, well, that was my journey, right? And that's why, that's what we're trying to teach that people. But for like, I guess the best analogy I could say is that, I went from being a micromanager to being a people pleaser, to being a high performance coach. And I think that's the mindset that owners or entrepreneurs have to be working with, like talent, is that you have to be like a high performance coach, which means like you're pushing them, right? But you're also pulling them in, right? You're cheerleading them, but you're also challenging them. And so it is a bit of that balance where like, do you want to work with a personal trainer or a coach that just cheerleads you, but doesn't get you to like, run for that extra like 10 kilometers, or like, I think that's that relationship that you have to be. And for a CEO, for a clinic owner, like our jobs is to treat our roles as like a professional, like in essence, we got your role to be like a professional, like coach, high performance coach, and high performance CEO. And we're working with all these talent, so that they can multiply themselves and do what we could do. If that makes any sense.
Have you ever done like a Myers-Briggs to figure out how people learn, how they communicate? I know when I was younger and I worked for this one clinic, we did a Myers-Briggs, and it gave everybody understanding of how they like to communicate, how they like to learn, how they might receive information, not just amongst ourselves, but when we receive certain clients, we can start to see these certain characteristics of, hey, you know what, we might need to be more soft-spoken with this person. We need to be more direct. This person likes a lot of information. This person just needs, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that with your clinics early on when you're more boots on the ground?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think those personality tests, whether it is Myers-Briggs or we use the bank code, but there's so many of these ones, right? And I think that is an amazing tool that allows you to be able to like what is the love language? What is the language of the people that you work with? And how do they process information? And how do they react when it's stressful? Right.
Yeah, how they like feedback, how they take feedback, how they like.
And so I think that's important. But I think what's even more important, let's be real, most entrepreneurs, most owners are not well rounded. They're usually good at one or two things, right? Right? Yeah. And so you could take all these courses to learn to be a better communicator, or to be a better like high performance coach with working with your clinicians. But if you don't have it, that's where you have to hire someone that's smarter than you to do that role. And that's kind of what I learned over the years. There's some stuff that I really hate and I'm terrible at. And and the sooner I recognize that, it was better for my business because I stopped doing that stuff and I just hired the people who actually did that for me. So instead of me trying to, do all this stuff, like I'm just working with that one person who can impact change, and they're amazing within that role. And a good example is that I've always thought like I'm amazing at marketing, right? I love marketing. It's kind of my passion. I love marketing. And over the years, I never thought that I could hire someone to replace me, right? But more recently, I just hired someone which I pay a lot of money, a lot of fucking money. They're so good at the job.
That's good.
And because of that,
Yeah.
my marketing leads is up 300% a year versus being up like 20, 30%.
Wow.
But I had to get over that like mindset that I'm the best person for that role.
Right.
So instead is that, hey, how can I hire really smart people, pay them well? Because if you pay people well, you could demand results.
Yes.
And if you don't do well, then you can always like get rid of them or fire them, right? Which I like, And then there's a quote by Charlie Munger, he was Warren Buffett's business partner. I don't know if you heard that quote. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. And everything is aligned to, like, I love this. And ever since I like implemented this more so in the last 3-4 years, like my business just really took off.
Interesting.
Aligning comp with like outcomes that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, coming from the education background, we think as physios, well, I have many degrees. I've done lots of courses. I should be good at this, right? Because I'm really good at this one thing. I should be good at these other things. And we're not. And I'm very fortunate. I have Kylie to run the business side of things because I like the clinical side. I like educating. I like teaching. And I'm not good at the business. I'm getting better. She teaches me, but having that balance or finding those people to work alongside you. And even with Waleed, our PT director, he comes in with such a calm demeanor. He's always just very stoic. And I get overexcited sometimes. I'm like, we could do this. And that can come off as, I'm like, I do it because I'm passionate, right? I'm excited.
You're like me.
But it could come across as, oh, he's being too critical. He wants too much from me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And Waleed, working with me for many years, he tells people, he's like, no, that's just passion. He's like, you're not doing anything wrong. He's just he knows you sees your potential. And so I've stepped back from that side of things. He's now running that, and I just get to do the teaching and the educating thing that I'm good at.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's tricky, but it's hard for a lot of owners, business people, to let go of those hats to pass them on to somebody else who might be able to do them better. And that's part of self-awareness and letting go of that ego too, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's hard because we all think that we're unreplaceable.
Yeah.
But we all are.
Yeah.
And the minute you realize that, your business will take off.
Yeah. There's freedom in that. It's so interesting because you think like, oh, you can't run without me. But then.
Yeah. And we were talking about that just before the show, like I think you really tested your team when during a period of time where like they pretty much ran the business without you. Yeah, and you were so proud of them. And you held on to it right to the very end. Until you were like, forced with like a gun in your head where I had no option.
Yep. Just take a little vacation in the hospital and on your deathbed. And
they'll do it, right?
It was awesome. It was great. Looking back at your PT health days, what's one thing you really messed up? When you think back, you're like, oh, I completely messed that up.
Yeah. I think that, like, I think a lot about this. There's actually two things that I messed up, right? That I would say me and the business partners, founding partners messed up. One is, some people disagree, but I'm going to stand by it. Like, we mess up with taking money, right? Like taking money from investors, right? Okay. Or private equity in this case, right?
Yeah.
And like, you don't see that so much in Canada, but you see a lot in the US as people want to scale. They want to go from 50 locations, 100 locations to 200 locations, I was just in Florida this week and I met some of these CEOs who had 1,000 locations. That's unheard of, right?
Wow.
Right? It's just insane. But once you start taking money from people, right? You have another shareholder you got to report to, and you spend more time presenting on your plan versus working on the business. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. Right.
And so
justifying the spending instead of
yeah,
spending to grow and
yeah,
build. Yeah.
yeah. And I know a lot of people in Canada, also in the US, like they take money, right? But I think a lot, unless your business is crushing it and you know exactly what to do and you got the systems down, and the new money that you take will like 3x the business.
Yep.
You're going to spend a lot more time doing PowerPoint presentations than actually working on the business, and these PowerPoint presentations is used to justify why you didn't hit your numbers for the previous month. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so back to the regret, it was taking money, but it was also growing too quickly.
Yeah.
And that's more relatable for most people, right?
Yeah.
Where we didn't need to take money because we didn't need to grow. It was our ego and our ambition when we're young that we want to destroy the world. And as you grow older and you have children and you have family, I got a 10-year-old. There's different things I value in life. I value time, freedom, spend with the kids, right? I also love work, but there needs to be this really nice marriage between the two. And I would rather own, a couple clinics that do really well and they're highly profitable, right? And 20 clinics, 10 clinics that make $100,000 each or $50,000 each. And, in essence, we call that the convenience store model. And you see, there's thousands of convenience stores, and it's owner operated, and there's some people that own 20 of them, and they're not very profitable. Maybe a couple of them are profitable. So you just end up being an Uber driver to service all these clinics.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I think growing too fast without having not only the systems in place, which is important, but also your leadership team is really important. And that was like a big mistake, with the PTL's journey. And then the second one I would say is the mistake and regret I have was doubting our entrepreneurial gut. Does it make sense? Doubting our role as being a business owner. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so when the business got really big and we were frustrated, it was natural for us to, let's just let it all go and just hire an outside CEO. And this outside CEO is going to come in and turn things around. And we just,
because probably a little bit of imposter syndrome came in, right? You're
100%.
You're like, well, we feel confident in these 20 clinics, but to have 100 plus, we're like,
it was a different game.
It's
right?
a totally different game.
And this guy, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he implemented a lot of call it corporate stuff, and he alienated not only the leadership team, but it alienated the clinics, and it created that thing that you see right now in a lot of these corporate rehab networks, right, where the people who work at the clinics is disconnected with the corporate office, right,
Right.
And they just feel like they're just it's all about money, and as a result, the people who work there end up leaving, right?
Yeah.
And so, imposter syndrome happens whether you have 5, 10 clinics or you have 100 clinics, right? And I think if I was to go back, I would have trusted our gut, and done things a lot differently.
Was that a point where you'd say, this isn't fun anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It got way too big, Tom. I'm gonna be honest. It got way too big. 1,400 employees, and the CEO is doing its thing. And then back then, you remember when OHIP delisted? So that is, for the people who don't know, they're Americans. They're listed to it. Is the government? The government provides free physiotherapy for the residents of Ontario, right?
Yeah.
So overnight, they just got rid of it.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
I do. I remember
40% of our business was done overnight.
That's bonkers, especially when you rely on that. It's
it was insane, and the journey was that we had to let 700 people go overnight. It was like that.
Wow.
And there was no Zoom back then. It was like,
No.
what do you need? Yeah.
Oh,
And so
wow.
the whole crazy thing is that like I don't know if Paul's ever shared this story, and so then the founders like helicopter back into like Hamilton, right?
Yep.
And we like ripped everything. We fired the CEO. We went in and re-ripped everything up, because like we had to take it from it losing money to like making money again, and we had to do it in a very short amount of time because when you take money, the banks are against you, right?
Yep.
You're on forbearance, which means like it's all this crazy stuff, and then long story short, yeah, we were able to like clean it up, find a white knight, and then ended up like exiting PT Health, right, with some value still.
Right. That's
But it was like an epic journey going through it.
Sounds exciting. What do you think, what would you think young clinicians misunderstand most about entrepreneurship in the rehab space? Because coming out of school, you have these ambitions. I'm going to open a clinic. It's going to be great. What do you think they miss the mark on, or what do they not understand before they start that journey?
It's a good question. I would say for most clinicians who are in school and they want to be an owner, I think most people don't understand how hard running a business is, right? It is.
Yeah.
It is fucking hard.
It's a punch in the face every single day, and
It is
when it
hard.
goes good,
Yeah.
you get a couple days that are good. You're like, wow, things are going great. We had a great week. We
Yeah.
had a great month, and then your HVAC blows up, or a clinician quits, or
Yeah.
put whatever in there. Client's unhappy. They gave you a 1-star review for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of owners who grind this out for like 5, 10 years, and they should just stay a clinician.
Yeah.
They would have made way more money
Yeah.
and like have less white hair or having more hair.
Yeah. For
And-
sure.
but then on the same point too is like for the people who do want to open, I think it's important for you to experience what ownership would be like, and so it's good for you to take on a leadership role with a clinic owner. Hey, like maybe you could be a clinic director.
Yep.
You could be a managing partner. Maybe you could do some of the doctor marketing, like community marketing stuff.
Yep.
So you could experience what's it like to be an owner on someone else's dime.
Yeah.
And then if you're like, hey, I'm up for the hustle, up for doing this, then you go all in. And the third thing is if you're going to go all in to start a practice, I would say you got to get super clear what type of business you want to build.
Yeah.
Right? Or you want to build $1 million practice because it's fucking hard and a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you don't really start making money until you hit that money anyways, right?
Yeah.
Because right up then, like you're just breaking even, you barely pay yourself, you might as well just be a physio or chiro, right?
Right.
And that's and I see a lot of people who get stuck at that $500,000 mark, $500,000 to $700,000, and they're just breaking even.
Yeah.
And I see people stuck there for 20 years. By the way, those are the best clinics to buy if you know what to do with it, because
Right. Yeah.
because they're sitting on like how long did it take you to hit your first $500,000? Like long, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was.
so then back to what I said is so get super clear with what type of business you want to own. And I would even challenge maybe even being a solopreneur, like working on a gym, getting like one room. Maybe that's okay,
Yep.
right? Low cost. You're building a lifestyle business. There's no value to it. Like, this business is you. And if that's the path you want to take, that's okay too.
Yep. But no responsibility for
No responsibility. You don't have to manage people. Don't have front
being
desk,
paid for it.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Don't have front desk, like have a super cheap lease, but you don't have to deal with you don't have to get all those battle wound scars, right?
Yeah, we learned from Clinic Accelerator, having your org structure is so important. And when we're bringing on new clinicians, they start as clinicians, but we ask them, well, what are your long-term goals? Well, I want to be a clinic owner. Okay, cool. Well, let's work for a year, and then let's go into a PT director role. Or let's go into, from there, then we can go into a clinic director role. See if you like it, rather than us partnering with you. And then what if we partner, and then after a year or two, you hate it, and now you want out, and we're now stuck with this other clinic.
It's a very expensive divorce.
It's a very expensive divorce, but we've learned that. And going along that path, one of our exceptional clinicians, when she started with us, her first year, she's like, yeah, I want to own a clinic. Okay, cool. Well, let's work for a year. And then the next year we put into PT director. And then the year after that, clinic director. And then right before her first mat leave, she's like, yeah, I don't want to own a clinic. Great. At least we know that now. She's like, I'm happy with his leadership role. I like working with the people. I like seeing my patients. That's it. I was like, okay, at least because we were looking at spaces to partner with her for a year. And we couldn't find anything. But thank God she came to the realization that she's like, I don't want to own a clinic. She's like, it's a lot of work. We're like, yeah. So
it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure when you talk to your wife, when you start the clinic, all your staff will make more money than you. Let's get very real with this. They all make more money than you, and you want them to make more money because the more money they make, that means the more money you make later. Okay, the keyword's later. Yeah. And the second thing is that you're gonna have a miserable life when you do the startup mode is hardcore.
Oh yeah.
It is working 7 days a week. You're going to be seeing patients and answering the phone calls and cleaning up and charting and all the other shit that you have to do, right?
Yep. We were, first year, we had 4,000 square feet. Kylie worked in the front desk. I was the only physio. We had one movement coach in 4,000 square feet. Way bigger than we wanted to, but the rent was good and the landlord was great. And, we were working 7 to 7 every single day for a year straight. And then we found an admin who came on. She was great. She helped set up systems. And then we found our first physio found us. She was a veteran. She had a reputation. She was good. Great. All right. Well, now maybe I can cut back to 10 hours a day instead of 12. Right. Mm-hmm. So, it's a lot of hustle in the beginning, and there's no work-life balance. There's no work-life balance. Everyone's like, I want work-life balance. Well, then you don't be an entrepreneur.
No.
Because
be a staff physio working the morning shift. Or the evening shift, right?
Yeah. And that's okay. But as long as people know what they want early on, or like you said, try these roles in the business to see, do you like managing people? Because a lot of the times it's not all roses. You're putting out a lot of fires. I want to take a quick break from today's episode to share something I believe every rehab and performance professional should know about. For years, I saw too many clients go through the same cycle: short-term fixes, temporary relief, and then the same issues coming back again. That's why I built the Advanced Movement Therapist certification. It's not just another course. It's a system that helps you identify the real cause of a client's pain, give them results that actually last, and stand out in a crowded industry. You'll get practical tools and strategies that you can take straight into your sessions so you can help people get better faster. If you're ready to become the go-to clinician in your community, head to amtcertified.ca to learn more. That's amtcertified.ca. Your clients will thank you.
Yeah. You'll also want to work at a clinic that actually is like a great running clinic. So you know what like the standard is.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people work at shitty clinics and then they want to be a clinic owner. Like, you're just multiplying the same mistakes right now.
Shit is just multiplying shit.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is like I'm like, this was my journey, is that unless I have a competitive advantage in terms of getting new patients or building a caseload from day one, I would rather buy a practice. Yeah. Because buying a practice, I already have a cash flow. I have a caseload. And then it's just how I run the business, right? Right. And so all these clinics who are stuck at that $500,000 mark for the last 20 years, right? And they're misran and they're not working systems, like, I would rather buy one of those. And that's what I did in my journey. We didn't start clinics. We bought clinics. Mm-hmm. And we just made it better. Yeah. But then by doing that, you better be really good with the systems and like and scaling leaderships, like and a management team, Yeah.
How would you come into a clinic and slowly change things? Because you have a successful way of doing it, and the previous owner maybe did not. Yeah. Because people are reluctant to change. People don't like to change. Well, this is the way we've been doing it. Yeah. We almost bought a clinic and it was not good. And we were worried that, well, if we buy this clinic, we start changing things, people are going to leave. Now all of a sudden we bought a clinic and we have no clinicians. How did you kind of get around that? Or how did you communicate to the current staff that this will be better? Life will be good. Don't
Tom, leave. It depends. You like that answer? I would say it does depend, right? Because it depends on whether, like, I think for you to make those changes, there's two ways of doing it. Like, it's either you rip off the Band-Aid from day one, which is my kind of approach, right? Or you slowly rip off the Band-Aid, but that's death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
Right. And we're talking about buying a clinic where, like, you obviously, like, it's not doing very well. And so it needs love, right? So my strategy over the years has been like, if I was to buy that business, right, you know, either I have a helicopter like person, like a helicopter clinic director, managing part of that, I could just like jump into that business and we just implement everything like and rip the Band-Aid off, you know, right?
Right.
Or I work with someone in there that is going to be my champion. You need a champion there. Right. So either you helicopter someone in, or you turn one of those into champion, and you need that person like will be your clinic director or managing partner, and then they have the relationship with the existing staff already, and so that's the bridge you need to rip off the Band-Aid and implement that stuff sooner. But the worst thing is like death by 1,000 cut, right?
Yeah,
because that's a painful death.
Yeah, boiling the frog very slowly. You've said in the past most clinics don't have a new patient problem. They have an operations problem. Where do you see clinic leaking the most money?
The biggest leaks is one, I would say, with the front desk, right?
Yep.
So that them answering the phone calls, dealing with all the, call it patient objections and why they don't book, and booking them into the first visit so that they actually show up, you know, that's big. And that's part of the whole patient experience, right? The second thing is, I would say where the biggest opportunity exists is when a patient comes in and they see that physio or chiro, that provider, that therapist doesn't give a care plan, a treatment plan to that patient, or they don't have the confidence to deliver that. And so, and when you don't do that, then, you know, like these patients are kind of winging it every, you know, just come every week until you feel better type of deal, versus saying, hey, this is the plan, this is what you need to do. I want you to go outside and like blah, blah, blah. I want you to book the entire plan care. Like I'm super busy. And I think that's the difference. And so, you know, one of the ratios we look at is like, what is your booked to prescribed like ratio, right? You know, if your care plan said 12, did they book 12 visits, or they book 8 and 5? And that's where training comes in, you know? So if you work at a good clinic where they do an amazing job to onboard and train clinicians so that they have the confidence of like, obviously delivering an amazing patient experience, dealing with all the patient objections, and also the clinical side, but also with the patient experience side, that is the difference between a patient coming on average 4 times for a care plan versus coming on 8 or 10. And that could be double.
Right. Yeah.
The BC clinics are the worst. I was going to say that. Ontario is much better.
I think, and I'm going to throw the schools under the bus, because new clinicians come out of school, and I even just had a talk with one of our new grads, and she's excellent coming right out of school. And I sat in on the assessment, and she gave the treatment plan for something that needed more frequently for the first couple of weeks. She's like, I'll see you once a week for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll taper off from there. So she walks her up to the front. I said, okay, your treatment plan, how much change do you think you're going to make in 30 minutes versus out of the 10,000 minutes in that week? Oh, well, I'm worried about, you know, the money. I said, that's not your problem. Like, do you not value what you do? She's like, unfortunately, I don't. I said, that's a problem.
Yes.
Right? And they don't have this confidence. But I'm like, but you know tissue healing times. You know this condition. You know how long it takes to make change. Why are you concerned about that person is giving you money to help them with the problem? And if you can't make any change in that 4 weeks, they're gone. And you didn't even help get rid of their pain because you couldn't be effective enough because the dosing was off. And it's like they all come out of school with a hospital mentality of, oh, I'll see you once a week. Because in the hospital, that's all they can do. But I'm like, but people are paying you out of their pocket to help them with their pain problem. And, you know, I want to go on that rant because as great as the schooling is from a education perspective, it really screws up their business side of things. Because I'm like, you're in the business of sales. You're selling your product because you're good at it and people want to buy it. But you have to have the confidence that you know it can help people.
Yeah.
How do you get around that? How do you communicate that to your staff? Is it something similar, or I mean,
Yeah,
you guys
I would
have
agree.
great examples.
Yeah, I think
that
you
picked
hit the
up
nail on
over
the
years.
hammer. And the way I look at it too is that like there are so much people out there fixing shoulder pain.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
You can list it all, right? You know, you can list all these different professions like chiros,
Yep.
you know, osteo, like NDs, like products, everybody, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Ho, the dentistry. Like, you know, and if you're a proud physio, you want, when people think about certain types of conditions or injuries, like, you know, it's like, you want them to think about physio, right?
Yeah.
So there is competition that's going on, even just outside of being physio. And so I think it is your duty as a physiotherapist to be able to, I'm not going to say it's sell, but like, you know, like you should be confident and put together a plan that actually delivers results, right? Because if they don't have a good experience and they're not feel like they're getting better, and they don't know what the plan is, I think knowing the plan is important, right?
Yeah.
Because people want to pay for it if you give them a plan and get results, show them outcomes, you go solve the problem. You know, people pay for money to people to solve their problems, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And if you can't do it, what ends up happening is they said, hey, this person didn't work for me, or this clinic didn't work for me, or even worse, they said physiotherapy doesn't work.
Doesn't work for me. Yeah.
Right?
The profession. Yeah.
Did you look at the Alex Hormozy that came out? Like he was talking about how, you know, like he works all day, like on the computers.
Yep.
And how like he's went to see a PT for all these exercises, and he's like, none of those work.
Right. Yeah, that was great. And he's like,
It's
I went to
like,
PT. Was this the one where I went to a PT to fix my shoulder, and I just figured out if I hang off a bar for 60 seconds, just hanging fix my shoulder. My shoulder pain. Yeah.
So after considering you went to school for 6 years, 8 years, depending on what you do, right? You know, you want to be an advocate of the profession.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and then the way I look at it is like, if I'm hiring someone to do landscaping at my house, right?
Yeah.
What do? They give you a plan, don't they?
Yep. They show you exactly how it's going to be laid out.
They're like, this is how much it costs.
Yep.
Okay. And they tell you how long it's going to take, right? And when they're going to come. And then if at the end of, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you know, and sure, I'll compare with other quotes, right? But that's the plan. And if they deliver an amazing job and my wife is happy and my daughter is happy, guess what I'm going to do at the end? I was like, these landscapers are fucking awesome. Yep. I'm going to give them a Google review. I'm going to refer my friends there.
Yep.
And then I'm going to talk about how awesome landscaping is, right? Or in this case, how awesome physiotherapy is.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And the sooner like the schools get it, like the better.
Yeah.
Because you're doing a disservice for the profession.
Yes. Yeah. Too many times, you know, we receive clients, I was going here for a year and nothing changed and they're doing the same thing. And regardless of what profession it was, I was like, well, did they look at this? Did they look at this? No, they kept treating the painful area. I'm like, that's not the problem. That's the pain. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not standardized enough. And we're taught all about the pieces and the parts and the anatomy and, you know, healing rates for tissues and modalities, but school doesn't teach us how to look at the body as a system, find those parts and pieces that aren't moving, look at some of the contributing factors to that person's pain, take a step back, look at the person first before you zero in. And they don't teach that. It's just like, here's all the parts and pieces, go figure it out. But they haven't been given a map. They haven't been given an algorithm to go through the body to figure out, well, these are the relevant parts. And, you know, that's been my mission, is just to, not just to elevate the practice of our clinic, but elevate the practice of clinicians. It's just, let's standardize something, you know, operationalize your system so you can, you know, prioritize results. Because at the end of the day, results is all that people cares, and how fast you get results. If you can get rid of someone's pain or reduce it significantly in the first appointment, they're bought in. They're like, holy crap.
I love it.
I can bend better. My arm doesn't hurt when I do this. And all we did was we released your diaphragm and we worked on your neck, and all of a sudden your shoulders.
Give them a quick win.
Yeah, it's a quick win. But it's what we're taught is not to take a step back. We're taught to zoom in too soon and not look at the big picture of the individual first to find out what they actually need.
Yeah.
And that's a disservice because they could easily teach that in the universities on how to take a systems approach before going after the parts.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
you know,
and then
that's
once,
not going to change. So my advice to
yeah,
any clinician that graduates from, any university, or college, is where you work on your first job is really important,
yeah,
because that'll set the tone of what type of provider or physiotherapist you're going to be when you grow up, right? And
totally.
so you want to work with someone, or clinics that actually have a really good mentorship, onboarding, and training to get your confidence level to be able to work with all different types of patients types,
Yeah,
right? Regardless of your age,
yeah,
whether you're 20, you look 23, 24, they're going to have like objections with you already, but you want the mentorship and training so that you are confident, right? So don't go work at a shitty clinic that doesn't actually
yeah,
provide that for you, right?
yeah.
Or you join a program that teaches you that, right? So it sounds like you do some of that stuff, right, Tom?
We do that weekly. We have group
Amazing.
membership. We just went over neural dynamics
Yeah.
today, dural decompression, nerve mobility, how to assess effectively to make sure the nerves are sliding and gliding like they're supposed to. Because a lot of times people come in, oh, I have tight muscles. No, the nerves aren't sliding because your neck is in a shitty position and you're compressing it, and the central tube is not sliding up and down like it's supposed to because from an old back end. Like when we look at a systems approach and we go through a hierarchy of importance. But once you start to organize your practice and systematize it, then you can operationalize results, which is exactly what we do in business. We have systems, we have operations, and we work on fundamentals and principles of understanding.
Bridging the gap between, call it like school and private practice,
Yeah.
like that is such a missing part,
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say? So if a clinician wants to create something beyond trading time for money, where would you tell them to start?
Just be an influencer on TikTok and get brand deals to make $400,000 a year. By the way, I know someone like that. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, then they just quit physio altogether, and now you're down a clinician.
I honestly know that. I know someone. I can't talk about the name, but
That's okay.
she's a good friend of ours, and she just blew up on TikTok and Instagram and solves a real problem, right?
Yep.
And because she gets so much eyeballs
Yep.
and impressions,
Yep.
that these brands agencies are paying her like ridiculously $300,000 a year of deals. It's insane. And I actually didn't think it would be possible, but it's crazy. So, but the reason I bring this up is that because if you're going to create anything, right? Because I get this all the time. People want to create, like whether I want to create a brick and mortar business, I want to do online product, I want to do like coaching, I want to do e-commerce. Like I've heard it all, right? I want to build the next generation like software of like solving this like thing. It doesn't matter what business you create, but it needs to be able to solve a real problem that people want to pay money for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I like that analogy is the thing that you're building, is it a vitamin or a painkiller? Because people will pay for a painkiller, but people will not pay for a vitamin. It's too proactive. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
It requires me to do exercises.
I mean, the main reason people pay money is to solve an immediate problem that they're having. They're not looking to solve a future problem that they don't realize that they have.
Yeah.
That's what, exercising, looking after your health now will prevent the disease in the future. But a lot of people don't prioritize that. They don't look at it. And then when they get the disease, they're like, oh, geez, I wish I took that vitamin.
Yeah.
I wish I looked after
Yeah.
my health. Now they need the pill to reduce the pain and get those
Yeah.
quicker shortcuts.
People pay for painkillers. It's just and this is what I've learned too when you start a business, right? Regardless of what business this is, that like you gotta look at this problem that this person has, right? Right, of your ideal customer, like that they're already paying someone else to solve this, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there needs to be a budget for this.
Right.
And your job as like an entrepreneur is to like make your product, service, whatever, so good that this painkiller is so good that you're gonna steal that budget because they're used to paying for it already. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And the hardest thing, like what I've done with business over the years, is create a business where there is no TAM, or in this case, like there's no budget. People aren't used to spending this type of money.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So yeah, like you look at Uber. Uber took like the budget of like people who spend money for taxis, solving that problem, right?
Yeah.
You look at Airbnb. Airbnb is taking the budget of people spending money hotels. You know, you look at you look at Netflix. Netflix took the money of people who are like doing it from Blockbuster, right?
Yep.
But there already was a budget. People were already spending this money. It's not like this new expense that they never paid before. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. That's what I kind of learned with these like fancy ideas over the years. Like whose business is doing really well that has this budget, and you're gonna like build this business so good that you take that business away from them.
Yeah. We built our clinic purely on reputation, and we vowed early on we will be that exceptional clinic, that the expectation is exceptional only. There's a lot of pressure to that because the expectations are very high in the community. We don't take MVAs, we don't do WSIB. And so therefore we have our reputation. And if we get results better than the clinic down the street, well, then people are going to talk about that. They're going to keep coming back. They're going to refer. That's why people are now looking today because, you know, recession's coming. If it's not already here, they still have money to spend, but they're going to be way more picky with how they spend that money. And if you can provide greater value than what the cost is, which is what we always do, then people are happy to spend that money that they put in reserve at your clinic. We can't afford mediocrity. Is too expensive. And as expensive as our clinic is to train and develop and keep good clinicians, that's an expense we're willing to take. You know, because we don't run that much of a volume numbers game. We run on a quality results game, and that's served us for the last 13 years.
I think that's critical. You're about a good point. Like I think brand and personal brand and business brand is more important than ever before, especially with the rise of AI and all these scammers out there. Like authenticity and protecting your business brand is so important, you know.
Where do you see AI coming into the, you know, you've been ahead of the trends for 20 plus years. Where do you see the next big shifts in rehab clinics with regards to AI, since you touched upon that?
Oh man, I don't know. It's a hard one, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knows, right?
We just invested, and we're the first in Canada we're first in North America. We got these AI-driven machines from Switzerland.
Okay.
And Formula One has them. They're across Europe. They're in Japan. And it looks like a big fancy leg press machine, pneumatic. It's got a big screen TV up there. But it's all AI-driven. So you're doing all this different testing, power, muscular endurance, right and left leg, proprioception. And then what the AI does, it has video games. It has video games that design the games around your deficiencies. So if you have a left leg that can't hold on to tension at a specific angle, it will create the downhill ski game to make sure you're strengthening that left leg more than the right.
Interesting.
So, and then it's got dodgeball, and then you have to show a certain proficiency before it unlocks the next level.
Yeah.
So it's got like 32 levels.
It's gamifying.
And then it gives you a whole data flower. 8 pages of data around your improvement, your muscle age, your results, the percentage of improvement, and then you can even send that to the client. You can send it to the surgeon. And we're one of the first in the world right now. We have an upper body one where it's these 2 poles. It's all pneumatic. It measures core strength, push, pull. So if you have an upper body injury, you can use that machine now to rehab, but it's all AI driven.
Interesting.
And it's ours. People love it because what you get to do is you get to compete around the world because it's an open network, and you get to compete. We're Team Canada, so you get to compete against people in Germany and Switzerland, and then you get to match up and compete against people in your own clinic. And then people like I got to keep the staff off it because they're on there playing it all the time, trying to beat each other, but it just makes a fun environment, and people don't realize what a workout they're getting. But the AI can pick up on fatigue and decrease power output, and it adjusts automatically so you can keep playing.
So you think that's going to be game changing in terms of like how care is provided at a typical clinic? Tom?
I think it's part of integrating and giving us data to know, okay, if so-and-so can't hold tension on their left leg at 45 degrees, well, we know from an exercise perspective, they need to do more isometric work.
Okay.
If they have decreased foot contact or decreased foot speed, we need to do more foot agility stuff, right? So it's going to give us data on what we need to do outside of the clinic or with a movement coach, but also it can be a standalone rehab tool because it was originally designed for stroke, Parkinson's, spinal cord, because it connects the visual system and the brain to the body again, because they're doing all this interactive stuff, but it's reconnecting those neural pathways. So it's very neurologically driven. It's very, very cool. So kids who have delays, we got them on that, and they get off and they walk so much different. It's awesome.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
So for, say, a 26-year-old clinician, how do they stay relevant in this profession long term? What would you say they need to focus on?
This is a physio or a chiro, like
anybody, a clinician in general.
Yeah.
What do they need to focus on to stay with the times, to stay relevant, to not burn out? What would you say? One piece of advice.
I have many, so it's hard to come up with one. Maybe I'll come with three.
Sure, top three.
One is, and I think this is a competitive advantage of like being young, is that I've seen all these people blow up on social media, right? And so I think if you're a Gen Z and you're young, you should embrace how you could actually build your personal brand and build a business around it, whatever that business topic is, right? So embracing Instagram and TikTok, I would say, right? And build your personal brand while you're young and figuring out the game of marketing and sales.
Yeah.
Because as you build that, like whatever product you have, whether you're opening a clinic or you're not, or maybe you do a digital product or you're a coach or you do whatever, like you actually have a community of all these people that like love you, right? And that will test you up, right?
Yeah. No, that's good. Good point. Yeah, it's definitely where it's going.
Like us old boomers, like forget about it. We're done that, right? We hire people, but like I'm just saying, like because the Instagram algorithm now favors people who create really good content.
Yeah,
it's not just the people who have a lot of followers, which is like the old way of doing it, right? So if you have good content and it works, and your content is solving a real business problem that has people's attention and they want to pay money for it, that is not going to be changed. There's nothing AI is going to do to be able to fix that, because people at the end of the day, they want to like embrace authenticity and other human beings. No AI is going to change that,
There's definitely going to be a premium for human interaction and
100%.
A human touch on something. So I mean, we'll never get phased out by AI, because I think the more it comes out, the more people are just going to crave that human experience regardless.
Yeah, and the second thing I'll add is that like when you come out of school, don't just go work at a business that pays you the most, right? Like don't be a mercenary. You want to work at a place where you're working with the smartest people in that profession that you're in, and you're learning skills that you're not going to learn anywhere else. Because this is the best way a young person can invest in them, which will compound until you figure out, whether in your late 20s or late 30s, what you want to do, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or set up a business, own a clinic or whatever. You want to learn and suck up as much information as you can from really smart people. And that's why your first couple of jobs, don't go to the highest paying clinic, or don't go to the highest paying job. Right. That's I think that's important. And I've seen this. I've one of my best hires, I hired them when they were 19.
Oh yeah.
And I hired, how do I say this? I hired him when he was 19, and he learned all the skills of everything relating to like what we do within the business. He ran so like super smart people. Started off at 60 grand, not a lot of money. Yep. Do you know how much this person is making right now, Tom? And and he's 25. He's making 160 grand now.
Wow.
Tell me,
6 years
a
later,
25-year-old that that is making $160,000 without a university degree.
100 grand raise in 6 years.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. Good for them. I want to close out with a few questions. All right. If you lost everything and had to rebuild a clinic in the next 12 months, what is the exact sequence you would follow? This is more for clinic owners.
Well, do I have money to like,
You lost everything.
okay.
What would you do?
Oh man, that's hard. I would beg and borrow money from friends and family, right?
Yep.
That's the first thing I would do.
All
I
right.
prefer not to have an investor, like an outside investor.
Yep.
And then I would actually buy a clinic that was like break even. And then I'll just run it better. Does that make sense? Like with my
Yep.
with my systems, you know,
Yep.
what I know with business, and I could make that back.
Nice.
Right. And then what I would do is I would not go crazy. I would buy like, I would buy one, do really well. I would buy one and then use the cash flow of that one to buy the next one, and maybe stop to a point where whether it's 3 or 5 clinics where I don't need like middle management. I got big enough.
Yep.
And then I would sell it to another clinic owner, right?
Yep.
That wanted 3 really well-run clinics, profitable that doesn't have middle management. And then again, nice a nice check that would have lower taxes because it would deem as capital gains, right? And take that money and go all in and buy like stocks or Bitcoin. And then do it all over again. What do you think?
Perfect. Yes.
And then pay back the other people, right? And so I would buy like a triple Q ETF, like which is like it just mimics the Nasdaq,
Yep.
right?
Yep. That's a good
What
stock.
do you think?
That's a good ETF.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because let's be honest, like the whole point of you owning a business is to have freedom, right? And
Yes.
I tell this to a lot of owners who start making cash is like take that cash, right, that you earn from your clinics, and you should actually invest it in some passive like investments, like let's just say like you buy the S&P 500 ETF, or you buy the triple Q ETF, which is the Nasdaq ETF. They're all like the stuff they use every day, and then like they're going up like between 10 to 20% a year. You don't have to do anything. That's true passive income, right?
Yeah.
And then if you can have like $2 million, $1 million, let's say you make 1 or 2 million, you have $1 to $2 million of like these ETFs, like and you get to a point where like whether it's the dividends you get from it or you pull it out, like like if you can make 5% off 2 million, that's $100,000, and a lot of people could retire off like $100,000, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a good strategy.
So
for young clinicians, you kind of touched upon this. What are 3 moves they can make in the next 90 days to set themselves up for long-term success? So you already mentioned online branding. You already mentioned find a good clinic mentor, right?
Yeah.
Absorb, learn as much information. What would be one more thing?
get yourself in a leadership role.
There you go.
Yeah, like say, hey Tom, I want to be a clinical lead. I want to be assistant clinic director. Maybe I want to help you with the recruitment side, run the U of T like events. Like there's so much things that you could do.
Yeah.
And you might as well practice on Tom's dime than than your own, right?
You might as well. Come and hang out.
Come and hang out, right? And then you might realize, oh my gosh, like I'd rather maybe just do it with Tom instead. Yeah. Which is another option, because I think for people who's never ran clinics before, I think for most people, if you do it yourself, it might take like 10 years for you to figure it out. That's 10 lost years. So it might make sense for you to partner with someone
who's done it all.
Who's done it already has the brand and systems.
Yeah.
Or you get a coach to help you, and you shorten that journey from 10 to maybe 3 years of lost time, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, Rick, this has been awesome. What's the best way for clinic owners or clinicians to learn more about what you're doing now?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram. It's the Rick Lau.
The Rick Lau.
All channels. Whether you hang out on Instagram or TikTok. So.
Yeah. Well, Rick,
I post daily content.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you've done for us as business owners, the coaching, the mentoring, the systems, the value that we've gotten from Clinic Accelerator and the Boss Summits and everything that you built has been tremendous value. So I recommend all of your products to any friends who own clinics to get their shit in line and get their systems in place so that they can run a successful business and not burn out. But thanks for everything you do, Rick. I appreciate you.
Amazing. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Staying Relevant. If you enjoyed it, check out the AMT certification at amtcertified.ca, where we help clinicians and coaches get better results faster. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes and share this with a coach, clinician, or athlete who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep staying relevant.